I'm doing this in honor of my daughter, and I'm hoping that even if it saves one life, it's worth it. She died on July 4th, 2009 at the age of 35. She taught 4th grade at University Place Primary. I always knew she'd be a wonderful teacher, but I didn't know how wonderful until she passed away, and all of the colleagues that she had, and even the superintendent called me and told me how wonderful she was with kids. After she had finished teaching her year of school, she was teaching summer school, and at Multicare we were in the throes of getting all geared up for H1N1 and the vaccine coming. It wasn't there yet, and we didn't know when it was coming. And she was had come to my house. We were having a late Father's Day party for my brother and for my son-in-law, and all of a sudden she just became very sick, and it just hit her like within minutes. And she was having a great time and laughing, and then all of a sudden she was getting on my bed with a pillow and a blanket, and it was probably about 85 in my house. So she felt so sick so fast that she couldn't even drive herself home. She was coming back to my house that following Wednesday because she was going to have, or Tuesday night, because she was going to have carpal tunnel surgery on her right hand. And she taught school Monday and Tuesday, came to my house Tuesday night. We went for her surgery on Wednesday. And when we got there, she wasn't feeling real well, but she never said that she was feeling very sick. And they took her temperature and her pulse ox and everything, and when they did, her pulse ox was in the upper 80s. She had a temperature. I can't remember now what it was, but she still wanted to go through with the surgery. Of course, the anesthesiologist and the RN listened to her lungs. They were completely clear, no fluid at all. But they weren't really in favor of the surgery. The surgeon came in, said he didn't want to, and she said that she'd waited for so long to have it because she wanted to do it after school was out, that she was going to have it then or not at all. So they went ahead and did it. And they didn't put her under, they just did a local, and she actually felt great after the surgery, did really well at home. And then Thursday, she did well when she got up, and she had a pretty good day, but in the evening she spiked a fever. And they told us if she spiked a fever that we needed to take her to the emergency room. And I had to go to work just for a few hours and do time cards, and when I came back, my other daughter had stayed with her, and she told me about the fever, and so I said, Hillary, we need to go to the ER. And she argued and said she wasn't going to go, and what do you tell a 35-year-old woman? But anyway, I told her, I said, well, we'll take your temperature again. If you still have a fever, you're going. And if you don't have to go. It was gone. And I even took it twice. In the morning, she woke up on Friday and felt absolutely wonderful. She told me how great she felt, and she had a good day, but she did sleep quite a bit, but that wasn't unusual after teaching for 9 months. She oftentimes would sleep a long time. So then that evening, I went in to wake her up and check on her, and her lips were blue. It was about 8 o'clock. So I knew she wasn't getting enough air, and I made her sit up and try and take some deep breaths, and she tried to and couldn't, and she wasn't, it wasn't changing her lips at all. And so we went out in the living room, and I noticed she was a little unsteady, and so we went ahead and talked about going to the emergency room, and she didn't want to go. And my brother happened to call, and he had company for dinner. I could hear him in the background, but when I told him what was going on, he said, we'll be right over. So he and his wife came over and helped me take her to the ER, and then things happened so fast. They did an x-ray, and of course her lungs were completely full of fluid, and then they decided to take a CAT scan. Her O2 sats were in the 30s and 40s, and she was still even arguing when they said they were going to put her in the hospital. She said, no, I'm going home, and she stayed so clear, and that was one thing that was kind of amazing to me. But they took her down to do the CAT scan, and she wasn't able to breathe after they sat her back up, and probably because the fluid went up. I talked to the respiratory therapist about it, and they took her to ICU immediately, and then they went ahead and intubated her, and she arrested twice, and it just went from bad to worse. She was always the life of the party when we had family get-togethers, and it's left such a big hole, I can't even tell you. And we have a small family, so it's more noticeable, I think, than if you have a large family. It would be not easier because you still have that void there. But it's made it very difficult for my daughter. They were best friends, and it's just been a really hard time. When the medical examiner called me a week later after she died, he said that her lungs were so full of fluid that they were solid instead of like sponges. And of course, she tested positive for H1N1. And it was just amazing to me to think that on Wednesday her lungs were completely clear, and by Friday they were completely full. And for her to not ever struggle for breath or even to say she couldn't breathe. I don't know why that was, and I'll always wonder why it seemed that way, but it just was an unbelievable situation, and I still can't believe that it happened. Thank you for listening to me.